Today is an F1 preview discussion for the Spa race this weekend. After 5 weeks away from the action, F1 is back. And this being Friday's shakedown, this is the last pre-race report out there on the internet. So we may be the freshest, the one closest to the racing. There are only 9 more F1 races to go in the season, more than halfway to the end. And Alonso is leading Mark Webber by 40 points. And that's less than half of Vettel's lead last year at this point in the season. But Alonso is only 42 points ahead of Vettel this year. He's only 47 ahead of Lewis and only 48 points ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. With 25 points for a win and 225 maximum points available to all, it's game on. So the stars of F1 are back in action, but the biggest F1 star of all made the first move of the second season. Bernie Ecclestone, 81-year-old Bernie Ecclestone, married 35-year-old Brazilian Fabiana Flossi. She formerly of the marketing team for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Now this is Bernie's third marriage. He's changing teams more than Petrov. Bad joke number 1. In F1 terms, look at it this way. Fabiana was born when Niki Lauda won his second championship for Ferrari in 1977. Those were the cars. Bernie, by comparison, was born when it was the first year for an F1-style championship, when Fernando Alonso of Italy won in an Alfa Romeo. Now that's the start of the 1931 Italian GP round of the championship. There was also a Belgian GP that was part of that season. I'm not sure if it was Spa, but look at those cars. They're as old as Bernie. Herman Tilke designed the wedding dress. Just like every Tilke design, a lot of curves, but boring and predictable, said the style fashionistas. And it looked just like the last 15 designs he did. Bad joke number 2. Fabiana designated her drag reduction zone, her inner thighs. Number 3, Bernie said the wedding, like F1 races, was not about the guests who attend. He really doesn't care about people coming to the event. Instead, he offered a pay-per-view package to the Fabiana family for them to watch the wedding. We're up to 4, right? Bernie's always a global guy, and knowing that he once drove an F1 car for Mobil 1, he being Tony Stewart, he had Tony toss out the bouquet and garter after seeing his weekend work with his helmet. Nobody caught anything, everyone ducked. And wedding night was just like an F1 pit stop, 3 seconds in and out. Hey, he's 81, she's 35. More jokes? No? I'll be back right after I fire the writer. Before we get to Spa, let me say wow and thank you for all your responses to the last show we did. You know, the one about the top 5 race cars you loved as a kid. The show with Mike Spinelli. If you missed it, the link is below. What caught my attention in your comments was holy shit, how young so many of you are. Now, Mike talked about toys being his passion trigger into racing, and amazingly, that all seems unchanged, except toys today are Sims and video games. But I liked your F1 race car choices in particular. Senna's McLaren, Mansell's Williams, a Schumacher Ferrari, of course, the Lotus 72. And it seems like graphics themselves were important to your choices, so it was no surprise that one of you picked Eddie Jordan's Buzz & Hornets F1 car. But the shapes of the cars matter too, not just the graphics. More on that later. Let's go to Spa, and we were there. I drove the track in a McLaren MP412C street car. We had a 30-minute open session on track. We'll see how that experience makes it into the Spa 24 video the drive is producing. But regardless, I may tell you the real deal of that session in another shakedown, but for now, just know this. A, I know why I preferred racing formula cars. There are no passenger seats. B, Spa really is all about elevation and speed, and being there in the real world is something TV and the video just can't capture. OMFFG, it was great, intense, and a real high-speed car balancing all the time. This may sound arrogant, but Eau Rouge scared the shit out of the other drivers. They were all using too much brake into the corner, so I really only got one shot at Eau Rouge. But I banged on the McLaren GT3 team race car drivers, guys like Phil Quaife and my brother from another mother, Alvaro Parente, for advice, and they gave me the right tips. It's all about aiming the car at turn-in, imagining where you want the car to be track right, up on the blind crest, and not imagining any danger, fear, crashes. You know, that race car driver thing of having a simple mind really does make you go quick. Don't think, just pedal. Now, the top GT3 cars were doing about a 2-minute 19 time around Spa, and it looked really quick. But Vettel last year in the Red Bull was at 1 minute 47. That's 32 seconds of OMFG with 32 Fs. So the driver points going into Spa tell us who the players are for the rest of the season. Alonso, as I said, is 40 points ahead of P2, Webber. 42 versus Vettel, 47 ahead of Lewis, 48 ahead of Kimi. And Grosjean is biting there for a win too, and Button is sure to show well. Now Schumacher is celebrating 300 GPs at Spa, but he and Nico, they've got to perform sooner than later, especially with Mercedes rumored to be tired of the almost and threatening to downgrade the factory team to an AMG satellite operation. Now the drivers are now known quantities in the 2012 season, so it may turn out to be the team engineering and their engineers as the way to the front. And that could be the most exciting part of the rest of the year. And on tires, even Pirelli is coming to Spa ready to unleash the teams. Very hard compound tires to let the drivers and setups push, as they say in Europe. Plus, the DRS zone is very short, and you know I love anything short. Well, it's because Spa is a drafting track where you're on full throttle 70% of the time, and that's going to take care of the speed in passing. Let's step through each of the teams and get you to balance your comments against my BS about what I think's going on. Starting with Ferrari. It's Alonso. It's only Alonso. Is Ferrari even fielding a second car? I know, that was a Massa shot. With the points difference, 7 points from first to second, and then 3 or 2 points down to 10th. In effect, all Alonso needs to do is hang around the other 4 rivals, avoid the DNFs, and this is his to lose. I made that sound simple, but what do you think? Now, Ferrari, the car, has improved. I read a Japanese F1 magazine. Well, I just kind of looked at the pictures, but the article tracked all the changes to the Ferrari car so far this year, and holy shit, they've changed everything. The front, the back, the pods, the wings, underneath, the exhaust. You know, you can hate Italians, but we sure have no shortage of ideas. And apparently, the Italian government is broke because all the money's going to fund F1 updates. The Ferrari car is working. It's working better, and I see no reason why it won't continue. And Fernando Alonso, he is the best right now. But the fight is not over. Red Bull always finds magic, and I'd be hard-pressed to think that they are not the fastest car and will not fall back from that position coming out of the break. Meeting the test team in Weehawken caught my attention too. They know what they need to do. But then going to the McLaren Technology Center when we were with them at Spa caught my attention as well. And they just want to win, period. The workers have to pass the trophy hall to get anywhere in the building, just to remind all of them why the they have a job and what that job is. And Hamilton, he'll stay with McLaren, and he's focused on driving and winning. The car is supposed to have more low drag design in it now. They're going to have their double DRS the way Lotus is claiming they're going to have new front and rear wings. Plus, for every update that Lotus or Ferrari or Red Bull make, McLaren seems to have theirs as well. Which gets us to Lotus. And Kimi and Grosjean too. And can we call it something other than Lotus? Because really it's not. The sponsorship is over, Danny Bahar is dead to me, and Lotus has done nothing to make this team fly the way it is. It's all about their aero and a sympathetic to the tires chassis design that's defining their performance. I almost said Lotus. And Renault Power is a horse, and Kimi's a stud. I wouldn't bet against Kimi at Spa. It's a place he loves, and it really fits his attack style of racing and driving. Now, if I have to pick, and I'm shooting this on Wednesday, today I'm in Baltimore at the IndyCar and ALMS race, so I have not seen Friday test times. I'd pick on Rubens Barrichello and Takuma Sato to give me a prediction. But no, if I had to pick, I'd pick Alonso, or Kimi, or Vettel, or Lewis. You know what? Let's just watch the action. We're all going to love it. Which reminds me, when we do the Porsche Cup races at the ALMS IMSA events, we sit in the TV production trailer and help call the camera shots. And to anticipate the action to get the right shots for the videos, I found myself not watching the lead car in the shot. That was for my peripheral, but I focused on the cars behind and watched their moves on track and their closing distances. Try that when you watch the F1 race this weekend. So what else F1 besides Bernie's marriage? Well, Ferrari put their 2014 twin-turbo V6 on the dyno and announced the fact to all to let them know they're ready and coming. And Renault did the same thing. And Mercedes is hinting that they're right there too. But it all reminds me of the last time we had twin-turbo V6s in F1 racing. And it really was a Renault show. But the Ferraris were mega power plants too. That's the Ferrari V6 from the old days. Now look at these cars and these engine shots. Here's a Ferrari from the 80s. Here's another one of the twin turbos. God knows where the driver's feet are. Here's the first Renault twin turbo V6 hanging out there. A little more aero cladding, the fast cars. But here's the question. Has there ever been a Mercedes V6 race engine anywhere? Beyond F1, anywhere? I don't think so. Let me know. Engine brands are great, and we need more of them. And maybe Toyota and Hyundai and BMW and VW, and maybe something Chinese will come in or come back in. But if the cars had more visual brand identity, I wonder if that would help incent them to join up with F1. When we talked about top 5 race cars, and you picked cars in that video, in your comments, you picked cars with fenders and faces and a specific look that kind of dominated your interest. But open wheel cars, they all look alike. Kind of have to own up to that. Which allows me to think about this. What if F1 cars mandated the shovel noses from the old days? This is a 1970s Tyrrell. But updated with the ground effects undersides that are in all the LMP cars, started with Toyota and the GT1, the TS020. What if they allowed those shovel noses, but now require the front grills of the street cars for brand ID, like Ferrari egg crate grills, Audi horse collars, BMW kidneys? I'm just saying, what do you think? Would that make having an F1 car look more like the road cars from those brands, be more encouragement for you to love them and brands to come in? And someone do a shovel nose rendering of an F1 car for us to kind of take my imagination here and bring it to life for all to see. But back to the President's Spa this weekend. What do you think about the action we're about to see? For now, I have to run out and pick a Bernie wedding gift. You know, he and Fabiano are registered at the Weehawken, New Jersey Harry Winston Jewelry Store, Pawn Shop, and Pizzeria.